come to life, but the bark is worse than the bite. Also, more old bones. Tipperary Creek has been inhabited by people for thousands of years, and keeping tabs on some of the things people collect. If you have Saskatchewan artifacts, the Museum of Natural History wants to know about it. And finally, collections of another kind that are out of this world. These stories on A Fine Science with Holly Preston.
People have always been fascinated by dinosaurs. Museums are full of their skeletons, all that remains of the mighty reptiles that once ruled the earth. Scientists are still not sure what happened to them, why they disappeared, but one just showed up recently, a creation of modern technology at the Museum of Natural History in Regina. Meet Tyrannosaurus rex.
We can easily tell that it was a meat eater. He had very, very large teeth. The full adult skull would have about a 7.5-inch tooth with serrations on each side, so it helped very much for eating. It had no chewing mechanism at all, so we know it didn't chew. It just bit and swallowed its food. We can tell that if it was knocked down, it wouldn't get up very quickly because it's very small upper limbs. The skin color, of course, in old dinosaurs for that matter, we cannot tell. Color is not preserved. We can tell a fair amount of it, the size of the brain, how good it was for seeing, smelling, the basic functions. We can take a cast or a mold of the brain and tell approximately what capacity it had for thinking. And most dinosaurs in general are very dumb in our standards. We have no evidence whether that the dinosaur actually dragged its tail when it ran or walked. Footprints so far found have no tail track preserved, so we know that when it probably ran or walked, it was probably the tail was probably up. But the main feature of Tyrannosaurus rex was his capability for eating. We're still not convinced entirely that Tyrannosaurus rex actually caught his prey because his upper limbs weren't able to grab that much. The theory now is that Tyrannosaurus rex was actually a scavenger, feeding off of prey already dead.
Moving models are nothing new, but dinosaur replicas are. They're also expensive. This one, half the size of a full-grown Tyrannosaurus rex, was built in California for about $100,000.
It's run by air compressor. What we have is a line running into the beast. The moving parts of it, there are also lines running through that, and a computer tells the air compressor or the air compressor hose where to shove the air into. So what we have is a computer moving the animal using an air compressor. We have no evidence for this particular animal, Tyrannosaurus rex, what it sounded like. That is based on more or less Hollywood.
Mega Munch, as he was named, made his debut at the museum in the summer of 1986.
Some kids like to get quite scared of it. They must remember it's just a robot in its basic sense, and it can't harm anything.
Our next story is also about something old. Not nearly so old as a dinosaur, but just as important to the archaeologists working in the area.
This area is known as Tipperary Creek, located near Saskatoon on the South Saskatchewan River. It probably hasn't changed much over the last few thousand years, except for the people. These are archaeology students. They're learning basic excavation and mapping procedures. Eventually, they'll join field teams and other archaeologists. They'll attempt to shed light on some of the mysteries of the early inhabitants in places such as this.
We have artifacts that we found on the surface, up on top of the valley walls, which date to 7,000 to 8,000 years ago, before present. So it looks like the earliest occupation was in that time period. Our excavations, both down in the valley and up on the top, have shown repeated occupation in the last 6,000 years. So from 6,000 years up to the present time, there's been repeated occupation in the valley. The top level of the site that we're standing on has trade beads and musket balls associated with it. So there's obviously been Indian contact then with fur traders or with Europeans. The area was homesteaded in 1903 and has been occupied by 2 families since that time. The root cellar to that original dwelling is up on the west side embankment. Very close to that is a foundation of an old swine barn that was built in 1912. So those 2 structures are indicative of the modern era, so-called, the agricultural era, 1903 on.
Okay, everybody, grab a pail and shake.
During their basic field studies, the students do find many artifacts or reminders of other times.
A lot of buffalo bone, stone tools, specifically those used to process hides and process the bone itself. So we didn't find much in the way of arrowheads or dart tips or anything along that line. It was more hide scraping tools, tools used to cut materials, and large hammerstones to break bone open. There were a good collection of bones from the right hind leg of a buffalo, distal tibia as we call it, and some of the foot bones. There were also 2 horn cores in there, or the bone portions of the horn of a buffalo. So we had pieces of bone from the front end, we had pieces of bone from the back end. They were all broken, presumably to extract marrow, at least from the limb bones. As for why people came here over time and what it might have looked like, originally I thought the medicine wheel was the most important thing, and it was for ceremonial reasons. And then I think that probably wasn't the case, so I decided, well, it was because it had good shelter, especially in winter, and good access to water. The river's right next door to us here. So for those reasons, it would be a very good place to camp. I think the real reason why people came here is that it's a good place to hunt buffalo. In fact, it's the only place around Saskatoon where you get these steep embankments, these steep drop-offs. And that's crucial to hunting buffalo in pedestrian times when people are on foot, to stampede these animals over a cliff or into a corral or into a snowbank or a sand dune or whatever. The development plans are to establish an interpretive center here, a museum-like facility, hopefully by 1990, it would be 4 years from now, and then a series of trails that visitors would be able to take, come out and see the various sites, perhaps see archaeologists at work, and try and get a sense for what prehistory was really like. Then the Indian community has other hopes. They're coming out to revive their culture and perpetuate their cultural traditions here, doing ceremonies and that sort of thing. So depending on which segment of the community you're talking about, we have various goals and various objectives. Winusquin, a harmonious place, means a place where you go, you get a feeling of harmony. I think that probably attracts people, and so people have always been coming here.
Do you have a favorite dog? They come in all shapes, all sizes, all colors. They play, they fight, they dig, they bite. And this Christmas, they sing and dance and give you their love.
Down goes.
An all-time animated favorite is back on the big screen. Walt Disney's classic, Lady and the Tramp.
Now playing at a famous Players Theater near you.
Thick pizza like the kind you'll find at the Hot Spot restaurant. The Hot Spot features a crisp crust pizza loaded with your favorite toppings. You can enjoy a Hot Spot pizza simply by phoning 949-5606. Free citywide delivery is available on all orders over $12. And you can order any item on the menu. The Hot Spot also specializes in flavor crisp chicken. Once you try it, you'll stay with it. Enjoy the Danakis touch. Enjoy the Hot Spot Pizza and Restaurant. Call 949-5606.
The great rate break is on. Crestview Dodge announces incredible 0% financing. Held over until January 10th, indoors at the Agribition Building. Get 0% financing on all 1986 cars and trucks, plus 87 Dodge Aries, Ram vans, wagons, Dakotas, and half-tons. The best price, best selection, and now the best interest rates. During the sale, drive away a Laser or LeBaron GTS, just $199 a month. The break you've been waiting for, 0% financing. Now till January 10th, presented by Crestview Dodge, indoors at the Agribition Building.
It's not too late. She wanted a sewing machine for Christmas and you didn't catch the hint. Northgate Sewing Center comes to the rescue. Announcing the year-end clearance of all Pfaff stock. Prices are the lowest they've been this year. Pfaff makes sewing push-button easy. From the Go Anywhere Tipmatic to the Creative 1471. Every Pfaff comes with a 2-year warranty. Shop early while selection is at its best. Northgate Sewing Center, your Regina Pfaff dealer.
Artifacts such as those uncovered at Tipperary Creek find their way into public museums for the most part. However, in Saskatchewan, it's estimated that there are thousands of private collections. The Museum of Natural History in Regina has the responsibility of registering them. One of the first things to determine is the location or site where the artifacts were found.
So this is the area then that we're dealing with right here up on the top of this flat ridge.
Yeah, it's right at the top of the valley.
Okay. Got a little bit of everything in there, it appears. What we do now is just divide them into the different tool categories, the arrowheads and the scrapers and knives and potsherds and flakes. That's our first step. And then after that we take further steps. You know, break them down further, like the points we will divide into their different tool types. This is an interesting piece. It's
an artifact is any item, be it rock or bone or wood, that has been used or formed or manipulated in some way by human beings, and of course that can be recognized as such. Most of the artifacts that we see in collections are arrowheads or spearheads. We refer to them as projectile points, which is sort of a generic term. Scrapers, pottery sherds, sometimes bone tools, sometimes pipes, that sort of range. Occasionally we find trade material like metal trade points and musket balls and things like that. Most of what we deal with, though, are prehistoric artifacts.
This is a piece of bone, probably from bison, buffalo.
Has it been polished, or?
I was just looking at that because you can see bits of polish right along there, right along those fracture lines, as if it might have been used for something.
How
do you identify polish?
Well, right on the very tip, it's a little shinier than it is further back.
Oh, yes, I see. Mm-hmm. And how do they polish?
With wear, the stone will polish up a little bit. So wherever you have a lot of polish on a stone tool, it indicates that it's been worn or used a lot.
The next step is to catalog the items.
Okay. Projectile points.
Okay.
We've got 2 oxbow points.
Okay.
One is brown chert.
Okay. Gotcha.
And the other is that altered felsic lava.
The 2 main reasons for registering collections are, 1, to assist collectors in following the Heritage Property Act, and 2, to assemble a database for archaeology in the province. The information is also used for research and environmental impact studies. The next step is to photograph the artifacts.
We photograph them one site at a time, so you never have more than one site on a photograph. We try to have a consistent arrangement all the time. We start laying out the arrowheads, and usually with the earliest ones first, and going in a chronological sequence to the later ones. And then knives and scrapers and so on. So we have sort of a consistent, uniform procedure as you look across the photograph. That way, when you start comparing photographs from different sites and different collections, you have a general idea of where to look for a particular item. Sometimes, though, a collection from a particular site is really large, and so there are times when we have had a whole frame just taken up by nothing but arrowheads. And then you go on for another one for the knives and so on. So it depends in part upon the characteristics of the collection itself. One thing I should point out, especially with regard to collecting artifacts, is that now one is supposed to have a permit, an avocational permit, to continue collecting. That's obtained by applying to the Archaeological Resource Management section. And the procedure is fairly simple. The form isn't all that difficult to complete. It requires that you do a little bit of thinking about why you want to collect and where you want to collect. It requires that you maintain a catalog and some site maps and very basic information about the site. And at the end of the season, you are supposed to write a little report. And this all goes on file in the Resource Management section files, and we end up with a copy of it at the museum. And it ensures that the collector is aware of the sorts of information that should be collected when he's out there in the field, that does more than just pick up the artifacts. If you just pick up artifacts and don't make any record about where you found them, you actually end up destroying a lot more information than they do if you just pick up by picking up the artifact.
Next, collections of another kind that are literally out of this world.
Famous star's organ music is so irresistibly beautiful, there have already been 56 Decca and MCA albums of his music. Lenny D's blending of organ with strings, orchestra, and voices has captivated America. And now, for the first time on TV, you can get Lenny D's just-released Melodies of Love Treasury. The most beautiful and melodious organ recordings you've ever heard. Every song is one you know and love. Every recording richly orchestrated. Music you'll enjoy over and over again. But you also get another entire Lenny D album. Treasury of the all-time favorites everyone loves. You'll love listening to Lenny D's Treasury of Favorites and how you'll enjoy his beautiful new Melodies of Love. You get both treasuries in this exclusive offer. They're not sold in stores. Order yours now.
Mail $14.98 to Lenny D, Box 124, Regina, S4P 2Z5. You get 2 records, 2 cassettes, or 2 8-track tapes. This special Lenny D offer will end with no advance notice, so don't delay. Write this address down now. Mail $14.98 to Lenny D, Box 124, Regina, S4P 2Z5. Lenny D, Box 124, Regina, Saskatchewan, S4P 2Z5.
A meteor is a particle from outer space that turns into a fireball as it contacts the Earth's atmosphere. If anything solid remains after the fiery encounter, it's called a meteorite.
It's believed that 99.9% of meteors come from the asteroid belt, which is a large number of small solid bodies that didn't quite get together to form a planet, but appear where a planet should be in our solar system.
They get knocked out of their orbit by colliding with each other, and they spray all over. And some of them happen to pass close enough to the Earth that the Earth's gravitational field pulls them in, and that's, yep, meteorites are rare. There are, up until a few years ago, no more than 2,000 samples of meteorite landings were known. Since then, we found a large number on the Antarctic ice cap, which probably represent about 600 to 800 more landings. So in total, no more than, to date, 3,000. So anybody that finds a meteorite is finding a very rare object. The characteristics to look for are, first, that these tend to be very solid objects. They're non-porous. If there's any significant porosity, you know, bubble holes, etc., forget it. The likelihood of it being a meteorite is almost nil. Secondly, they tend to be somewhat heavier than normal rocks. Some of them are very much heavier because some meteorites, what we call irons, are composed essentially totally of metallic material. The commonest ones are composed about 80% of rock material, about 20% of metallic material. But they are heavy. They're heavier than normal rocks. Another aspect is what we call thumbprints, and these are produced by the heating up and exfoliation of material from the surface as it's passing through the atmosphere. If the meteorite is found shortly after it lands, another thing we'll find is what's called a fusion crust, a thin skin of glass which tends to have a black color, and that's also distinctive. Now this one is a replica. It's not the actual meteorite because that's in Ottawa. A replica of Wynyard, but it's a perfect replica. It looks exactly like the original piece of Wynyard looked like. And this is now in the National Collection. This is the most recently recovered meteorite in Saskatchewan. It's obviously been around for a while. It's weathered a bit, but it's still, we can see the shape of it. This is one of the discovery pieces of Red Deer Hill up near Prince Albert. This was recognized in 1975, and on it you can certainly see very nice thumbprints, the very typical meteoritic surface. There's even a suggestion of some remnants of that thin glassy skin, that fusion crust on the surface of Red Deer Hill. This is, here is some of the actual material of Wynyard. It's a slice through this meteorite. You can see how much the surface of the real thing looks like the surface of the replica. But the thing that the replica doesn't show, of course, is the interior of the meteorite. And here we can see this aspect of it being made up of two principal kinds of material. The little pieces of metal or little segregations of metal scattered throughout the rock-like silicate material. Occasionally we do find a meteorite that is composed totally of alloy like this one here. This is a very thin slice, as you can see, through such a meteorite, where the fragment was very much larger, but here we can still see some of the fusion crust from that meteorite, but the interior is composed almost totally of alloy. There's a little, very small portions of other material, but virtually all alloy. And what we find is that when we take meteorites like this and etch them with acids, they characteristically show this very distinctive texture, what's known as a Widman-Staton texture. And this is one way that we are able to tell these apart from just, say, a piece of iron that somebody has found lying around on the Earth's surface. The other thing is that a piece of iron will be iron, whereas these are iron-nickel alloy with rather distinctive composition. Some of that contains something like 20% nickel and about 80% iron, which is characteristic of these meteorites. This is a sample of what in a sense is some of the rarest kinds of meteorites, those that we see land and find almost immediately after they land. And in this case, one can see that the interior of the meteorite looks totally different from Red Deer Hill and Wynyard. It isn't that rusty color because it hasn't been around on the Earth's surface for any time weathering. And instead, the rock material in the interior is very fresh. Also, on the surface of the material, that black skin, and it may be possible for you to see the very thin nature of the black skin. That's that fusion crust. What it is a very thin coating of glass that is produced by melting of the meteoritic material as it comes through the Earth's atmosphere. It melts and then it chills rapidly because of the very low temperature of the interior of the meteorite. So we can see the compact nature of the material, and we can see the fusion crust, and we can see the relatively smooth character of the surface.
Meteorites provide scientists with samples of original solar system material, and they may contain material that is the same as the elements which make up the interior of the Earth that scientists can never see. If you should stumble upon a meteorite or know where one exists, Dr. Coleman and his associates would like to hear from you.
We sure would. I mean, when there are that few around, any one may add terrifically to our body of knowledge concerning these objects, because every meteorite tends to be slightly different, and each one may provide us with some new information that up till now we didn't have. So any meteorite is of great interest.
And that's our program. I'm Holly Preston for A Fine Science.
This is CBC Television.